All right, welcome back, everyone. I got a special guest. Her name's Debbie, and she runs the offbeatlife.com. Also, howtocreateapodcast.com. She travels the world and she teaches people how to create remote incomes, learn remote skills to get remote work agreements, and also how to start a podcast. So, Debbie, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, Riley. Thank you so much for having me here. I am really excited to talk to you.
Yeah. Excited to talk to you again. I was on your podcast a little bit ago, so here we are swapping it back. So, before we dive into your howtocreateapodcast.com, that's a super good resource. I was just checking it out. It's like, boom, just lines it all up. Here's the equipment you need. Here's the software you need. Here's the services you need. If you want to dive deep, they have tons of resources, and you even have a new course on how to create a podcast in like 8 weeks or something, 8-week checklist you got going on. Real quick, how long have you been kind of like digital nomad status, or are you digital nomad status, and where are you now, and what's your quick background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started the offbeatlife.com about 2.5 years ago as something that was just really out of curiosity. You know, a lot of people when I was traveling were remote workers, and I wasn't happy with my 9 to 5, and I loved to travel, and I just wanted to see how it could become sustainable. So it just started out of curiosity, and I started talking and interviewing to people on my podcast about how they started it. And lo and behold, a year later, I was able to do it full time, and now it's a full-time business and making income from that. So luckily, it's been sustainable ever since.
Awesome. Sweet. Had a dream, vision, did it. Hashtag online business. It's, many opportunities here. One of the awesome things is that we can do these days is create a podcast. And I created mine. Just kind of by accident, just interviewing people on my YouTube channel. And then I was like, oh, this could be a podcast too. So put it up there. And I kind of just learned by doing. And I'm still not optimized like at all. So I'm sure I'm going to learn some tips for on this interview here. So if someone has been thinking about starting a podcast, what's your breakdown? What's your mini masterclass on how to create a podcast?
So like with anything else, if you're starting a new content with a new platform, it's really learning about the specific topic and niche that you're going to go into. I feel like podcasting right now is the go-to, right? It's a new in and cool place to be, but you have to understand that like with anything else, you have to start it from the right, way. You can't just do it because everyone else is doing it, because it does take a lot of work and effort to be able to do that. So first, understand what type of topic you want. Make sure that you really want to do this because you want to do it long term. So one of the things that I tell my students a lot is to make sure that you can really put together what your passion is and what your expertise is in. So if you can combine both, that would be the perfect topic for you because you're going to be having longevity with it. Right. And then another thing is to really make sure that you are doing this and you are able to make sure that you are answering people's pain points, because a lot of times people will make that they're having issues with certain things. And if it's in your topic and your niche, you want to make sure that you're answering that on your podcast. So if it's not educating them, you have to make sure that you're also entertaining them, or a bit of both. And I think that would be a really great place to start with that. And like Riley was telling you, there's a ton more resources that I give you on my site for that, howtocreateapodcast.com. So there's a lot of freebies for you there as well.
Yeah, nice. I'm on the website right now. So the first thing, creating your topic. It's something, obviously something you're passionate about, blah blah blah. And the way I like to put that is just like, what do you like talking about? What do you find yourself talking about naturally, like with your friends, and just like, what do you like talking about? And so I always, same thing with like a YouTube channel or a blog. People are like, oh, what niche should I get? What topic should I do? Just think about, what do you naturally like talking about?
Yeah.
And that can be a good place to start. So yeah, over your podcast journey, I guess, what are some tips and tricks that people can learn, or what are some tips, tricks, and hacks that you could share with someone who is kind of wanting to start their podcast?
Yeah, so another thing is make sure that you have some sort of a checklist, right? So we have this on our site that you can actually get. Is podcasting seems like it's really overwhelming because there's a lot of things that you have to do. You have to make sure you know your topic, you have to know your hosting platforms, you have to learn how to edit, all of these things. It can get really overwhelming when you're just taking a look at everything that you have to do. But if you do it in bite-sized things, you're doing one thing every single day and you're making it really consistent for yourself, it's going to become more doable, and it's not going to be as confusing, and you're not going to be overwhelmed by anything. So you need to make sure that you create that system for yourself right from the beginning, because if you don't, it's going to get really overwhelming. Believe me, this actually happened to me when I first started, and I was super overwhelmed. And when I created that system for myself, that's when it became a lot easier, and it made it more sustainable for me in the long term.
Nice. Yep. Have that plan, get organized, or things will be all over the place. Admittedly, I'm pretty all over the place. I definitely could use a podcast assistant. Let's see. So in the world of podcasting, someone was actually just telling me that that as far as advertising and digital marketing, some advertising expert was telling me that podcasting and content is making an upswing as far as what people are actually advertising, like boosting their content, just like boosting a content, boosting a podcast, boosting a blog post. Is that a popular thing amongst podcasters? Then have you ever tried that? Like basically doing paid advertising for your podcast episodes, like to get it out there? And if so, like what channels, and what have you kind of noticed with that?
So meaning doing ads for my show, so people
doing ads for your shows.
Honestly, most of my, or pretty much all of my traffic and listens are all organic. I have never paid for an ad for people to listen to my show. And I have seen people who have paid for that, and it does work, but I have not done it so far. I mean, maybe later on, who knows what could happen. But I have heard some really good things about it. I think I've heard people say that doing Google ads, Facebook ads would be really helpful, especially in the beginning when you don't really have a set audience yet. So that can be super helpful. So luckily for me, when I first started, I already had a community and an audience that I really launched it to. And I didn't feel like I really needed it. And honestly, in the beginning, it was just a hobby for me, right? It didn't start becoming a business until a few months later when I actually got my first brand sponsorship. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is actually a money-making platform. So yeah, I should take this more seriously. But for me, I haven't paid any ads yet for anyone to actually go into my podcast and listen to it.
Got it. Speaking of monetizing with a brand partnership, I have not been doing any of that on my podcast, and I am totally open to it, monetizing my podcast. I guess the only way I've kind of been monetizing it is, I guess, my own products. Like, I've had my Amazon course back since 2016, but I don't really have any sort of system of like having a recorded, promotional snippet at the end of all episodes, or anyway. But how did you land your brand partnership, and was it And like how much money did that make you? Like did that take you from like $0 a month to like a full time? Oh, I'm making $3K a month from this one brand partnership, or like what's typical, like what's the typical realistic expectation out there of how soon you could kind of monetize your podcast?
So you can actually start monetizing right from the beginning, and it doesn't have to be just from brand sponsorships. It could be like a course that you're doing, Riley. It could be from affiliate links that you are doing with other brands. And it could also be through companies like ClickFunnels, where you would just find a company there and then you would do an ad on your show or your website. And then whenever somebody clicks on it and purchases a product, you get something from it. So it's not as hard as you would think to get a brand sponsorship if you're looking at affiliates, right? Like ClickFunnels. That's one of my examples for that, because it's a lot easier when you're just starting out to actually do it. If you don't have a lot of audience yet, it can take a little bit more time to be able to do that, because obviously not everyone is going to buy from a first sell. But for me, also another reason why I didn't start really paying for ads for my show is because I was getting featured in places like Refinery, Forbes, Travel and Leisure. And that's really how the brand started to find me. And that's when they started approaching me, and I got featured the first 6 months that I started my podcast. And that's where the two brands simultaneously reached out to me at the same time. Like, hey, we really love your podcast. We found you through here. What you're doing with your audience is really who we want to target. How can we pay you to put an ad on your show? And again, this goes back to what I was telling you in the beginning is, if you know who your audience is and you have an actual niche that you're an expert in, that's going to stand out to the brands who are looking for you. And it's also going to be really good when you are pitching to those brands, because you know exactly who they're looking for, and you know who your audience are. And if they align, it's going to be a perfect fit that it's going to be hard for them to be like, what are you talking about? This makes no sense. You're like, this is exactly who you're looking for. I have it. I have thousands of people who are going to want this product that you're wanting to sell. So really, that's how it all started for me. And it just went from there. Yeah. And I think my first sponsorship deal, I think it was only like one ad on my podcast and then one on social media. I think I made almost $1,000 just from that. And I also have to say it's about your negotiation skills and not taking what the industry standard in podcasting ads are telling you to do, because if I did follow that, I would not have made any money. I probably would have charged like $50 per episode or something ridiculously low like that.
Nice. Okay, awesome. So you said you got your podcast featured in some Refinery 29 and some publications out there. What was the trick to make that happen?
Yeah, so for me, it's really about making sure that you're making connections with people. So when I got featured in Refinery 29, I was following some writers. I would comment on their Instagram or Twitter. I didn't even tell them about my podcast, but because I just started engaging with them, they were like, wow. And then they would go back to my site and they were like, oh, wow, you have a podcast. And then they started listening to it and they really enjoyed it. And I was very I targeted specific people because I knew they were writing articles that I knew were also similar to what I had a topic and my niche was about. And that's where it all started. So, and I also want to make sure to let you know that once you get featured in one publication, writers will look at those other posts and articles, and they will most likely include you in a similar post. And that's how it just turns over. And then you will see like best travel podcast. You'll see my show on there. We actually just got featured in Travel and Leisure a week and a half ago. And you'll see similar podcasts get featured in a lot of similar things because they have been featured one after the other. And all the writers just kind of like, okay, somebody already did the research. We might as well do it as well.
Yeah. that whole phenomenon where writers are doing research and they take the research from a previous post that's like talking about the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually wrote an article about best travel podcasts as well for one of a really most popular travel blogs, and I started researching and I started including new podcasts in, and then it's funny because now new travel podcast lists are adding the ones that I added in, so it's really funny. It's like that's how you do it.
That's how you can do it, and you can just stick yourself in there, no shame, just like boom, put yourself in there. Now it's this whole network going. Okay, so creating networks. Okay, awesome. And so I know about these kind of podcast booking agents, because I've had like people email me, want to be my podcast booking agent. I have some other podcast friends. I get contacted by them as well, including yours. What's your kind of takeaway on that? Have you noticed a big growth from that, or what's your summary?
There are definitely a lot of people, like you said, my assistant actually contacted you about a swap, right? So I just pretty much, I have my full-time assistant, and I added this on as one of our rosters because I like to do a lot of things myself and create a system for it. And once I create a system and then I have somebody else do it. I also have people coming up to me and be like, hey, I could be your agent, and we could negotiate. I'm like, I could negotiate way better than you. Because I did work with one agency when I first started the podcast, and they didn't negotiate pretty well, and I was making like 10 times more than what they were giving me. So it's really about creating that system. Once you, like I said, once you create that for yourself, just start hiring somebody to do it for you, train them, and it'll just keep going. So for me, there's a lot of booking agencies out there, but their pitches are really bad. Like they've never even listened to your podcast. They'll just have like a copy and paste. My assistant listens to every single podcast. As you know, Riley, he'll like point out things that he loves about your podcast. And we're very, very picky about the people we also go towards. And they have to really align with what we're doing, because if you don't, there's really no reason for us to swap this interview or to even get on each other's radar in that sense, unless there's really something that we can both win in. So it has to be a win-win for everybody. And that's my motto with everything. It can't just be about me, or it can't just be about you. It has to be a winning team that we're going to be creating.
Yeah. I mean, it must have been good, because I get, a good amount of these emails, and, I replied positively to yours, or your assistant. So it must have been good. I'm just looking it up now.
Well, also,
anyway,
it's also interesting. So just to tell you the percentage, we don't do a lot of, we're very specific with our interview swaps. So this is a great way for you to actually get noticed in other podcasts. This is a great marketing technique. But because of how personal our pitches are to each podcast, we book about 95% of the pitches that we put out. So that's how good it is. So you need to make sure you're personalizing everything, and you really care about the other person too. And it really translates with what kind of person and what kind of business and what kind of platform and media that you have.
Nice. So I guess for someone like me who's like, we got some options to kind of focus on to grow the podcast, what has having your assistant doing the outreaches / pitches, what have you noticed the growth from that as compared to growth from other things? Like, what would you compare, like, has been the biggest growth?
Yeah, I would say doing interview swaps with similar niche has been one of the biggest growth for us, because obviously if they listen to your podcast, Riley, they're really interested in being digital nomads, online work. We do something similar. And you already know that they're listeners of podcasts and they like this topic. So guess what? If they like this interview with me, they'll probably go to my podcast. And if they like that interview with Riley, they'll go to his podcast. So for me, it's all about sharing, right? Sharing networks, giving each other something. So that has really worked for us. Since we've started doing this, our listeners have definitely bumped up. Also, when we get featured in publications, it definitely bumps up as well. People find us through there. So those are the two things. And really, it's very simple and it's all organic, and it doesn't take too much or any money for us to do that.
Nice. Yeah. Pretty cost effective to train that assistant to, find, podcasts that are win-win situations with the audience, kind of overlap there.
Yeah.
And then when you reach out, you always do the podcast swap kind of pitch.
Yeah, so we always do that. So right now we actually have a long queue of people, and Riley, people will constantly pitch to you. And we've been very, very selective with who we get on our show, because honestly, we only have 4 people that we let in every single month on our show. So now we have about 6 months wait for people to even get in, and then like 4 to 5 months until they're published. So yeah, it's as you grow in this industry, more people want to get on your show, which is a really good thing. But it's also, I feel bad because then you have to wait longer to be able to do that. But yeah, doing it well, making it personalized, never do just copy and paste. I hate those. You know what I'm talking about, Riley. When you see those emails, you're like, yeah, you didn't even listen to my podcast. Why do you want to be in it?
Yeah. Sometimes I reply just like, what video did you watch and what did you like about it? Yeah. Okay, cool. Are you doing any as far as podcast growth? Because I guess that's what stage I'm in. Are you doing SEO, blog articles? Have you noticed good results from that, or YouTube videos, or anything else that you're doing out there to get your podcast out there?
Yeah, so we have different platforms that we actually do our marketing in besides interview swaps and getting featured. So for SEO, we actually do transcriptions for each of our podcasts. So I have somebody that does that as well, and we put in keywords for it. And then on our website, we create resources that are free. And it's all SEO keywords that are specific to our topic and niche, which is online work and online business. And then another thing is, make sure you're taking advantage of your social media. So we create graphics. I have the Offbeat Life on Instagram, and then we have the Offbeat Life podcast on Instagram, and then we have our Facebook. And then Pinterest we also do as well. So that actually drives a lot of traffic for us. So for those of you thinking podcast is not for Pinterest, that is so wrong. You need to get in on that. Go to Pinterest, and that's another way of people searching for you and finding it through there, and it's more visually driven. So if you just learn how to do it, use keywords there as well. It's just like people finding you on Google. So it's been really helpful for us. So SEO for our blog, Pinterest, social media. And also, I do want to say, going back to creating income with podcasting, when for example, you're talking to brands, you're not just selling your podcast. If you also have a platform on social media and on your website that you have an audience in, you can also sell those and be part of your package. So it's just another way for you to create more income aside from your podcast.
Right. Nice. So the Pinterest thing, I noticed on your blog posts here on your How to Create a Podcast site, you have those little Pinterest graphics at the bottom, and it says like share this.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Do you just make those in Canva, like a pre-Pinterest style little image?
Yeah, absolutely. So we created our own unique style, so people automatically know that it's our design. And then yeah, we just create that, and then I just, we just make that every single week or whenever we have our new posts, and then we just add it on Pinterest, and people find us through there. So it's been going pretty well. We actually just launched How to Create a Podcast a few months ago, and we've already been getting decent amount of traffic for it. I haven't really focused on it too much, except for really SEO and Pinterest, and it's yeah, we're pretty happy with what's happening to it so far.
Nice. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Because we've all seen the little button that just says share on Pinterest, but what you're doing is, I think I found the post where I saw it here, is you at the bottom of the article, you have, did you enjoy this post? Pin it for later, and you have 3 Pinterest pre-formatted vertical style. Basically a cover art for this blog post.
Yeah.
And so how do they pin it from here? Because when I click on it, it just takes me to the image. So are they supposed to just save this image?
Yeah, you can save it, but honestly, I think we forgot to put the link on there. So it's typically, if you click on it, it will take you to Pinterest.
Yeah, it should say like pin this image. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, but yeah, that's a great idea. And they even have like 3 different ones to choose from, because Pinterest, if you guys don't know, it's all about those tall images. Okay, sweet. I got some assistants to hire.
Yeah. Well, if you need to hire somebody, we have a whole lot of people on our roster, Riley, that we could just put out your job on there and find you somebody.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I figured you might have a little podcast freelancer network. Cool. Okay, awesome. Yeah. So yeah, all of her equipment is on there. From the USB mics that I think we're both using here. I love mine, the Audio Technica one.
Yeah.
I've been using that. I like it. Quick and easy. For on the go digital nomad, all the way up to the Joe Rogan one, the more expensive ones. They have it all on there, and I've had my eye on that one for some time. We'll see. We'll see how business does over the summer, and I might have to make a quick little purchase. But my vision is I want to have, because I travel so light. I literally travel. I have one like suitcase, roller, medium size, and then one backpack, and that's everything I own. Like I just, over the years, I just have less stuff. Totally digital nomad. So it's been this battle. Oh man, do I get like a full professional big old podcast setup? Like, it's just basically, it's going to mean that either I have to get a big suitcase or carry around like a separate little briefcase with, that little podcast briefcase thing. But might have to do it.
Yeah. It's a balance between that and being a minimalist, right?
Yeah. Minimalist, or level up with the technology. Anyway. I think I'm gonna have to go with the mobile podcast setup with all the big equipment and stuff. People are doing it. So I guess we can kind of finish on the offbeatlife.com. Give us a summary of kind of what the offbeatlife.com is and kind of what you share on there.
Yeah, so the Offbeat Life is really where it all started for me. It's where I share all of my resources to help people find work from home jobs, start an online business. It's where the podcast is as well. That's where its home is, where you can listen to people like Riley, who is a digital nomad, who are remote workers, and get inspiration from them. And we don't just kind of give you the unrealistic Instagram view of it. We give you all the realities, the good, bad, the ugly, and the beautiful as well. So that's where the home is for everything. And we also help people find the jobs. We give you, if you're a subscriber, we send you emails to apply for jobs ASAP, and that's where it all is.
Nice. The Offbeat Life. I like it. I'm on the screen right here. Wow, over 160 episodes.
Yeah.
Wow. Crushing it. Just hit 160. Ooh, I really like this. I was just working on my blog, livingthatlife.com today, and I was like, this really needs a makeover. I haven't really it totally needs a makeover. But anyways, yeah, guys, the offbeatlife.com. You can check it out. All the episodes are here, interviewing remote workers, and she has great sources on work from home jobs, remote working, boom, podcast mentorship program right there. I even just saw. So awesome, beautiful blog here. If you're on YouTube, then I'm going over the site right now on a screen share. Some great articles on here. Best legitimate paying online job. So when you say online job, you mean not just starting your own business, but working remotely for a company, right?
Yep. So on our site, we actually have specific articles for starting businesses online and also finding and applying to jobs as well. Because as you know, Riley, not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, but they want to travel and be able to make it more sustainable and make money while they're on the road as well. So we have those two options for you.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've been trying to emphasize over the past year. It's like more and more digital nomads I've met in these digital nomad hotspots they don't have their own business. They are a remote employee. So to kind of give my whole spiel, there's three flavors of digital nomad / remote worker. There's one, freelancer, two, remote employee, and three, entrepreneur / business owner. So all three of those are great. I think long term, most of us, I think we want to have our own business. A business being you have employees that work for you and something where you can make money 24/7. But having a remote job, so just working remotely for an employer, can be a great way to start especially if you're itching to travel or just itching to get out of the office or work from home. That can be a great place to start. Just transition into a remote position inside of a company or a different company or your current company. And then of course there's the whole freelancing thing, which is monetizing your skills in the gig economy on freelancing sites and stuff like that, which is of course most of the time it's trading your time for money, which an entrepreneur, we don't want to do that for too long. We want to create these systems, create businesses. However, if you are a freelancer, you can transition that into an agency relatively quickly, and I'm sure you have lots of good resources on that. Of course, if you guys follow my podcast, I've interviewed many guys who have digital marketing agencies, which is basically a freelancer, but you hire other freelancers, employees to take on the workload, and you kind of step back and become the boss / managerial role, kind of managing everything and trying to create a digital marketing company. That's it. But you have great. If you're not watching on YouTube, she has great articles on here. Weird things that I never even talk about, like landing your first translation job online, and how to travel for free by finding house sitter jobs. How about that? And of course, one of the most popular ways to start freelancing, especially if you're a Westerner with perfect English, is freelance writing. So a guide to finding the freelance writing jobs, how to find online TEFL jobs, which is online teaching. I've done a couple interviews with online English teachers for sure. That's definitely a thing out there. Highest paying apps that allow you to work from home. That's very interesting. Cool. I guess I'm curious about this in the world of in the world of kind of freelancing for beginners, have you noticed anything that's like kind of really good right now, really hot, if someone wanted to start freelancing as a newbie, I guess?
Yeah, so one of the most questions I guess I get asked is, what if I don't have remote skills or I've never done this before? And I always find that most people do have those skills, but they maybe just haven't implemented in their 9 to 5 that they used to have. Like we all know how to use social media. Some people probably are not getting paid well or not paid at all, and they're doing really well with it, or you know how to answer emails, you're very organized. So a lot of those things could be good for like virtual assistants, or if you're a good writer, if you have your own blog that you've already started, you can start writing for other people. And if you have a website, that's also a great way to use as your resume as well. So there's a lot of things for you to go out there and start, and you may not even know that you have the skills already. It's just fixing up your resume, putting it on there, and then you never know what's going to happen. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I always tell people, if you want to be a digital marketer, entrepreneur, even freelancer, creating your own blog/website is like one of the first things you should do as well, for sure. And obviously that combined with like your LinkedIn, and if you want to be a freelancer, create an Upwork profile for sure. And it's just like your reviews build, and these are all kind of your digital resumes. Like it's these platforms nowadays.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, lots of options out there, guys. No excuses, for sure. If you want to be remote, and hey, if you want to travel whenever you want, there's no excuses. There's plenty of opportunity to have a highly profitable career that is totally laptop based, totally internet Wi-Fi based. So yeah, Devi, any last final tips or thoughts or anything before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I guess just come to the offbeatlife.com if you guys want to know more about how to start working remotely, especially if you've never done this before. We have a lot of resources for you for newbies. And if you want to start your own podcast, go to howtocreateapodcast.com, and we have a ton of free resources there, and it'll just help you. Again, if you're a newbie, I'm really great with helping newbies, guys, so come at me with any questions. Feel free.
Yeah. No stupid questions over here. There you go, guys. You know where to find Debbie. Links in the description as well. And check out her podcast. Subscribe. I'm sure you're on all the podcast platforms too.
Yep, I am.
Yep. Just give her a little search and check her out. All right, Debbie. Thanks for coming on. Have a great Monday.
Thanks, Riley. It was great to speak with you.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the FBA Lifestyle Podcast. Don't forget to follow on all podcast platforms, YouTube and Instagram. Ready to fast track your first or next FBA product? Ready to create a real product that leaves the competition in the dust? Then check out the 90-Day FBA Challenge. A 12-week accelerator program with weekly coaching calls where we help you go from zero idea what to sell to a product live on Amazon within 90 days. And download the free Amazon Secrets ebook, FBA Lifestyle, the Amazon Experts. Start your FBA business. Achieve the freedom lifestyle.